Hello and welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where we're here for another close season catch-up, taking a look at Raith Rovers, the business that's going on, everything that's happening down at Starks Park at the moment, and probably catching a few of our Scottish Championship teams as collateral damage as we go. I'm your host this evening, Robbie Weir, and as ever, delighted to be joined by Iain and Allan. Firstly, how are you doing, Iain?
Very well. Glad to be back. Recording a podcast in broad daylight feels incredibly weird. I'm usually hunched over in the dark in the piss and rain. But yeah, great to be back. It's been nice to have a wee break. But yeah, let's get back into the football.
Duncan's rant in the last one went so long that the light gradually faded away by the time. But it was well received. So yeah, it was good to see quite a lot of the commentary that came out on the back of that one, hitting home with a lot of people down at our level of football. We've also got Alan Douglas one. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, just to kind of echo Iain saying, I had to actually close my curtains there because the sunlight was too bright. It's good. It's good to it kind of makes the season feel a little bit closer. You know, we were all probably fed up with last season, but we're all, I suspect, raring to go again already. It's like, so yeah, no, it's good to get on and chat about the Rovers again.
It's almost that bit more frustrating when like you end a season on a high and you're like, I want that to keep going, and then it just obviously didn't, unfortunately. And then of course we've got the man that going through a difficult time at the moment, but yeah, we'll get onto that in a bit in this podcast. We've got Graeme Meldrum. How are you doing, Graeme?
I'm fine, thanks. I hope you're going to go easy on us since it's our first day of pre-season back. So no Barry Robson mental runs, please.
Aye, well, we'll see what happens. And how's the lad getting on in Zante?
Well, he's communicating because he wants Rovers news, so it's great.
That's all right.
One way of making sure if your Rovers supporting child goes away on an after 6-year holiday, make sure it's a close season and make sure the lines of communication are open for football news.
A good solid strategy there. Yeah, good parenting. So yeah, we'll kick ourselves off. Just going back to the League Cup draw, which was sort of the first thing that happened, I think, after we did that podcast before. So Rovers have been drawn against St Johnstone, Inverness, Thistle, Elgin and East Kilbride. Iain, do you think that's a tough group, but still good opportunity to progress out of that?
Yeah, I think we should be looking to get out of the group, to be honest. Inverness, I mean, I feel like we draw Inverness in the League Cup almost every season. We've played them an awful lot. Elgin, a ground I've not been to, which I know a lot of people kind of look to the League Cup to fulfil those sorts of fixtures. St Johnstone's obviously a more difficult draw, a wee bit disappointing to draw them. A stronger team in a division that we're already going to be playing 4 times, but I don't see any reason why we can't get out of that group. East Kilbride as well. Mick Kennedy's my favourite person, so I'm looking forward to playing them.
A completely serious person, and an individual there. And yeah, it's just one of those ones again where with Motherwell, they were the team after, and I'm always consistently looking for Motherwell in the League Cup, and they're always a team after, like the top. We always get the group before them in the draw. Graeme, just to come to yourself, do you think that has any impact on the signing of Josh Ray? That kind of adds a wee bit of sort of bonus for St Johnstone to be able to say, we've got this keeper that you're after, you're looking to sign him, he wants to go, you want to sign him. Do you think it has any influence that they can kind of hold that as a bit of a gunter ahead with the League Cup coming up?
I didn't think St Johnstone would be that petty, but having seen some of the self-entitled supporters on various forums, my word, what a bunch of fans they are. They're amazing. With regards to the draw, they're supposed to be the worst team that we could have gotten the top seed, so I'm like, yeah, qualifiable, if that's such a word.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as being a group where you would think that the teams, because of the position, East Kilbride are obviously throwing about a fair amount of money. Elgin did really well in the league last season. It's uncertain however they'll be able to replicate that this year. With Cali are a bit of an unknown, given that I think for all they're coming out of administration, you're then also looking at them losing a few of their key players, like Keith Bray and Charlie Gilmore have gone to Dunfermline. Moussa Dabaga's away to Northern Ireland. That got announced he's away to Crusaders. So they're going to have quite a bit of change in terms of their squad. They also got linked with Joe Chalmers today, I saw on the Courier. So
please sign him.
Yes, so you've got that aspect. Just for yourself, Alan, any thoughts on the League Cup draw? I know
it's you know what it is. What it is. You're always going to have, the way it works with the seeding. It's fairly samey every year in terms of the level of opposition. I think there are definitely harder games you could have got, like you going to Tynecastle or something like that, which would undoubtedly have been harder than going to McDermott Park. From a totally selfish point of view, I've never been to Elgin or McDermott Park, so very early in the season, obviously I was going to tick off McDermott Park anyway, but very early in the season, that gets me up to about 37, I think, out of the 42, so kind of getting there. And St Johnstone is like half an hour up the road for me, where I am as well, so it's a nice easy trip. But yeah, definitely nothing to fear in that group. We can, not only should we be looking to kind of qualify, I see no reason why we couldn't aim to go and try and win the group. Set a marker, go in there, show Pavel and his mates just what Rovers are made of.
Muted already. It took me about 3 days and it's been muted. So, just absolute nonsense. I'm keen to see how we do naturally. We've not seen too much in the way of movement from Rovers so far. We've obviously had the one sign. We'll come on to that later. But I think that's applicable across generally the league. St Johnstone are one of the few teams that have actually made a fair bit of movement, bringing in Morgan Boyce and Jack Baird, two centre-backs from Greenock Morton. And then, of course, again, we'll come on to Jamie Gullen in a little bit. Also, since we last recorded, Airdrie beat Cove in the playoffs, and then Ross County, they got relegated by Livingston. Graeme, to put it pretty bluntly, is that a bit of a bastard to see? Ross County getting relegated, given Uncle Roy's love of the chequebook and just willingness to, we've been relegated, we're in the top flight, we don't want to go over the board, but once we get relegated, I'm going to start chucking money at players like Garim Kai-Stephen and Declan Gallagher.
Yeah. I think how we hit on the last episode was Duncan's favourite subject. You've kind of hit on mine. Parachute payments. Yeah. Because they get that as well. But I can remember parachute payments first coming in. And it was in case you'd signed somebody on a long-term contract so that you could cover their wages and you didn't go burst. But everybody now has these relegation release clauses or a certain fee you can leave for if you get relegated. So I think it's shocking that Ross County get that. They've always got the financial backing anyway. And all these teams seem to put these clauses into their contracts. So it's shocking they get it. Shocking St Johnstone get it. Yeah. If you don't cut your cloth properly and you go down, tough shit. Yeah. If my work was to lose their main contract, we'd be out in our arse. We wouldn't get a parachute payment to say, there you go, you'll be all right. I'm sure it's the same with you guys where you work. Yeah. If you lose a big piece of business, the staff have to go. Yeah, so Scottish football should grow up here. Get rid of the parachute payments, or they should be in for every single league, because it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, then the parachute payments, please, SFA or Scottish League or whoever, waste of time.
I think with County, there's not even really been too much movement in terms of the players that they've lost out on. There have been a few that are going to move. I know that. I suspect Ronan Hale, he was playing for Northern Ireland last night, so you would expect that he'll move on because there's no danger that he's going to be stuck at this level. But there are a few sort of more established players that they've got, and listening to sort of their fans and what they've been saying, Don Cowie really struggled in terms of being able to adapt their squad and make it a bit more flexible. Was the real sort of problem that they had. They didn't bring in any wingers at all. And they really limited themselves in terms of their options.
And they had a really good one on loan at Ayr United as well.
Well, he's back there now.
You know what I mean?
He's back up at County now. So, yeah, Iain, just what about for yourself? Obviously, Airdrie staying up as well. Just your thoughts. Is that naturally a tough game for us, but a bit more interesting maybe than Cove, shall we say?
Yeah, listen, we've had our difficulties with Airdrie, shall we say, over the last couple of years. I think in the end they deserve to stay up. Do you know what I mean? They finished the season really well. They've obviously come through the playoffs with relative ease. Do you know what I mean? So deservedly keep their place in the league. Cove, I've never been, and I've got no real interest in going. So for me, I'm quite happy with that. Arbroath coming up, very good day out, which is a big part of going to the football. Quite happy with that. Interested to see where one Mr. Sam Stanton might end up and whether or not he might end up back there. But I'm sure we may come on to that. If not on this episode, then at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I noticed the record earlier on had him sort of linked to St Johnstone, and whether that'll be any, I'd sort of hinted about it before about using him as a bit of a make weight in terms of getting Josh Ray in, and whether they would have any appetite for that, how that pans out. Still to be seen. Arbroath haven't actually made any signings yet, and a lot of their success last season felt like it was built on loanees. Stanton coming in, Fraser Taylor, and Aaron Muirhead all sort of joining. Callum Penman as well from St Mirren. So, yeah, it's tough to see where they'll actually be. And David Gold and Colin Hamilton have got a bit of a rebuild almost coming straight up. We did sort of talk about Queen's Park being the potential sort of relegation fodder, and I'm sure we'll have a sort of more wider spread preview when teams have got a bit more behind them. But already they've signed Aidan Connolly today. I'm hearing through the grapevine there's potentially Ewan Murray joining them, Michael Roof as well, maybe. So a few sort of a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the players. Queen's Park are obviously pretty much archetypes for the disruption that's going about the Scottish Championship, Alan. But at the moment, it seems to be firmly that Partick Thistle have raced into the Statement League lead that we know and love. What have you made about sort of what's going on at Firhill? Just with it's generally been a slow summer market, but then it just seems to be chaos there.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, get well soon, Ian Baraclough. We're absolutely about to rip into Thistle and have a good laugh at their expense, but it sounds like he's had a pretty serious incident while on honeymoon, so hopefully he kind of recovers from that and he's back at Firhill watching the relegation battle soon enough. But yeah, I mean, really bizarre. Genuinely, the biggest thing I took from it was how, like, our pre-season starts, I think, next Monday or Tuesday. I think we're back in pre-season. So you'd imagine Thistle will be about the same. You know, they're going to have to get a couple of friendlies in before the League Cup starts at the beginning of July. And they've not decided on their budget for next season yet. They're having a meeting this week to decide their budget. Now, I get that their season tickets only went on sale. They seem to have been a little bit slow starting, but, you know, I don't know what the usual pattern is for them, so you can't really comment. But surely they've got an estimate of what their season ticket sales are going to be. So they should know exactly what their budget for next season is going to be. I suppose the other big kind of cloud over them is what's happening with Brian Graeme. He can't play for the next season. He's said he can't play for the next season. He can't go in there and, like, you know, be managed by Mark Wilson, having co-managed with him. So you'd imagine they're going to get money from somewhere, which probably affects their budget. But then they also need to try and replace him as a player, which is mental. So it's just, yeah, there's something no right about that club at the moment. If I was a Thistle fan, I'd be a wee bit concerned.
See you, Robbie. Sorry if I could just jump in there. Just for the listeners and possibly for me as well, I've not been keeping a massive check on what's been happening at Partick Thistle. I wonder if it might be worth just you having a wee run through of the goings on at Firhill, just for to give a bit of background.
Right. So Partick Thistle are effectively, they are a fan-owned football club. Now, how that basically operates is that just because you're fan-owned doesn't necessarily mean that you're fan-run. The boardroom decisions, they basically elect a board and they have directors who obviously operate and choose. They have had quite a few characters come into their club over the last year, couple of years really. The main backer for Thistle that I've seen, they seem to get a lot of investment from Donald McClyman, who's basically a Partick Thistle fan over in America that owns a semiconductor, I think it is, company. Now, Partick Thistle fans will probably be jumping up and down screaming at me saying this is wrong, but they do contribute heavily through their sort of the Jags Foundation, which is their sort of their basically it's a sort of amalgamation, I think, of trusts and things like that, quite a complex model, where they'll make contributions, and I think they do put in a 6-figure sum each year, which is fair. However, they've recently brought in sort of characters, a guy called Levi Gill, who's came in from down in England, who's the general manager. They brought in Ian Barraclough as well, and Richard Beazle, who's their chairman. Effectively, it just feels like at the moment there's quite a big disconnect by the members who are on the board at Partick Thistle compared to the people that are involved with the Jags Foundation, and the way that it's operated. So naturally, you had things like, for instance, the appointment of Brian, or the job interview, and sort of Brian Graeme publicly touting himself, and then he obviously turns the job down. Dougie Imrie, it looks like seemingly, I mean, I think the Greenick Telegraphs, the way that they phrased it, said that they decided to go in a different direction, but then they come round to Mark Wilson, who'd not even applied for the job. So there's been this sort of back and forth where you've had board representatives from the Jags Foundation resigning from Partick Thistle's boardroom. That was their sort of their fan rep on the board, the one person they did have. That position's getting phased out, I believe. So yeah, it's just quite a lot where there's statements getting put up on the website with a bit of mudslinging, and then a day later they're all coming out saying, "Oh, it's fine. There's no need to worry. The main focus is for getting sort of things like the budget for next season." When they're about to start pre-season in a couple of weeks' time, as Alan rightfully says. So it just seems a bit of a strange setup at the moment. There's quite a lot of there's almost like a dissonance between like the fans' expectations and where they're at, and maybe things that are going on behind the scenes where it's maybe not not everything can be seen. Again, I'm looking at this from an external perspective. I've got no skin in the game other than being horrendously biased against Partick Thistle. I'm sure that there's a lot of good people behind the scenes there, but at the same time, am I going to laugh if it goes horribly wrong? You're absolutely right. I'm going to be having a laugh.
I thought Duncan summed it up really nicely in our group chat, actually, when he said the statement saying everything's fine was genuinely like a mum and dad coming up to their kids' room saying, "Oh no, don't worry about all the shouting you heard downstairs. We weren't fighting, really."
So the funny thing is, it's like you get stuff like, for instance, that they're putting out about their chairman. Is basically they put out a statement on their website, Richard Beazle, who effectively is a finance director himself, and they're asking people to volunteer to be a finance director at the club. So strange things like that. They've offered basically 2 tiers of season tickets. You've got your regular tier of season tickets, and then you've got a premium season ticket as well, which offers you priority for tickets, and you can get your free. Basically, rather than doing a YouTube channel for their highlights, they've got it all on what they call Jag Zone, which is behind a paywall and things. So yeah, just a very strange times, I think, at Firhill, and it's quite difficult to see how it'll all pan out, depending on their sort of summer. Again, it doesn't help when you've got a sporting director that goes on his honeymoon and breaks his neck in a freak accident, which again can only extend what Alan said. Brutal to hear, and I really hope he makes a full recovery, because again, it's not the type of thing that you want to see anyone involved in Scottish football going through. But yeah, just to come back to yourself, Graeme, just what have you made in terms of this? Because it feels like it has been quite a slow summer. If you go to Neary's toe poker, Airdrie have made a few signings. They've brought in a 17-year-old from St Mirren, but then on top of that, you've had the likes of Sean McGinty come in and Craig Ross from Stranraer. Arbroath haven't brought anyone in. Ayr United have only made one signing. Dunfermline have made one signing. There's nobody for Morton yet, who've only, again, another team that have only just agreed their budget. That was more because of the sponsorship agreement that they've got with Dalrada, who are effectively an American company that sponsor them because of a seemingly a Morton fan over in the States. You've got Queen's Park, who've only brought in Aidan Connolly, and ourselves, we've brought in, obviously, J. Rowe. Ross County have brought in a couple of players, and St Johnstone have brought in 3. So generally, it seems to be quite a slow market. What have you made of that? Do you think it's maybe a sign of the times that players are willing to wait it out and maybe wait for clubs to get a bit more itchy with the League Cup being just on the horizon?
I think there's a bit of that. I think maybe the bit that we're not taking into consideration is the fact that the national insurance thing for employers has gone up, and I think that's maybe got something to do with it. And I think maybe understanding everybody's budget. It seems to be, I think Iain said it previously, it seems to be, it's a marketplace where everybody knows everybody, and it's just people moving about the same teams. You know, there's no, I don't know, that there doesn't seem to be a lot of new blood coming in. Obviously we have, yeah. But Sean McGinty, yeah. Boys, I think Boys is a good player. I think Boys is a good player. I thought that was a good signing by St Johnstone. But there's just, there's nothing happening. But then again, I suppose if you're looking at Morton and you're looking at Partick Thistle, there's two of the teams in the league that don't know what their budget is. So there's nothing moving there. And there will be probably everybody shopping in the same market, and it might be, as you said, offer for 2 or 3 different teams for a player. It might come down to, is it 1 year, is it 2 year? Is it going to cost me, £50 more a week in petrol to go there or whatever? But I think it's going to be one of these. I think somebody's going to fire the gun, and it's going to be the next couple of weeks. It's just going to be hell for leather signing players. But it's quite good that it's quiet, because you get all these mad conspiracies that come out of thin air about everything. Yeah, and everybody, the sales of tenner for men goes through the roof, because everybody's panicking, going, we'll start the season with no goalie, no right back, no centre forward. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Yeah, chill out, guys. We'll have a team. We'll be fine.
I did enjoy, the conspiracies have been rather wild. I was begging on the Pie and Bovril thread for Rovers to sign a player, and even when we did, it still created an argument. I was like, what is going on here? But yes, let's focus more in terms of what's going on in the Championship at the moment. Looking at even the example just coming to mind for me is David Mitchell at Ayr. Like, you look at the reaction from their fans, generally pretty underwhelmed with that. So
it's a bizarre one, because they chopped and changed their goalie so much last season. You would think they would go out to make a statement signing of, like, this is a guy we're bringing in to be our number one. It's like, for me, that's not what they've done. Maybe Scott Brown sees it differently, but
yeah,
not the guy that came into Partick and Partick nosedived. Yeah, because Partick last season, I thought Partick would do, if they got a goalkeeper, they'd do really well. They got Miles Roberts in. They did really, really well. The minute he went back, nosedived, and Ayr United have gone and signed the keeper.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of, I think, Ayr fans that were quite keen to link Scott Bain to them, and then he's gone and signed for Falkirk, which, to be honest, I was quite surprised by. But again, maybe that's just the point that he's in his career, given Jay Hogarth seems to be doing, or the lad Hogarth, whichever one it is, this seems to be doing relatively well. Any signings for anyone jumping out so far? Alan, we'll start with yourself. Is there anyone that's really stood out for you?
Ross County have done some good business and some, who knows. I mean, Declan Gallagher should have, he did. He actually probably did better for United in the Premiership last season than he did for them in the Championship. I don't think he was a particular standout in the Championship for them. They did all right. They were, if anything, Holt was probably the better of the two in the Championship. But he was fine. I mean, and they had a very good defensive record. But I would have questioned this time last year whether he would make the step up and do well in the Premiership again. But there were plenty of United fans who wanted him to stay. So on the face of it, that's a very, very good bit of business for County. I think Livingston showed last season that if you can be solid at the back, you've got a right good chance. Gary Mackay-Steven, I don't know about. On paper, fantastic signing, but paper's about all he's been on for the last year, because he did absolutely hee-haw for Kilmarnock last year. I don't even, did he play more than 5 or 6 games? I don't know that he did.
I think it's about 12 games in 2 seasons or something like that.
He's, in theory, a very, very good signing, and he's not even that old. He should, if he's willing to come in and put his head down and get on with it, he should be a very decent player at this level. I'm not convinced. He's no someone that I'm looking at going, oh man, I wish we'd gone and tried to get him, because he's not the player that I thought he was going to be 10 years ago. 10 years ago when he was coming through at United, I'm looking at this guy thinking, this guy is going to be a superstar. He's going to get 70, 80 caps for Scotland. He's going to take us to the net, and he's just never fulfilled that potential.
Yeah, hard to gauge how that one will turn out because he's had so little game time over the last couple of years. Even when he was at Hearts, I don't think he kind of flattered to deceive there, and then it just feels like it's at that point.
Things didn't exactly go swimmingly at Aberdeen either.
Yeah. Iain, anyone for you that stood out as being a potential good bit of business from any other clubs?
Yeah, I think Aidan Connolly is going to be an excellent signing for Queen's Park, to be totally honest with you. News obviously broke just not long before we came to record, and he's gone back there. There was some chat about him going to Morton and stuff, but Queen's Park feels, obviously he's been there before. I think he's a cracking player. I don't hide that. I think he's excellent. I'd have kept him at us. I think he had a lot to offer. I think he showed enough in the games that he did get, especially towards the end of the season. Quality, hard working, end product. I'd have kept a hold of him. I think he'll have a cracking season for Queen's Park. I've met Aidan a couple of times as well. I sponsored the game against Auchinleck it was my 30th birthday, and he was the man of the match, and he came in and he was so nice, so polite with my nephew and stuff as well. He's a really, really lovely guy, so I wish him all the best at Queen's Park, just obviously not against us.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that all Rovers fans are going to be keeping an eye out for, inevitably, if he does well against us and he's banging in the goals against us. You know that the conversation's coming. Like, it's not going to be a shock to anyone when it's going to be, we should have kept him. But yeah, I mean, I'm maybe a bit more relaxed compared to a lot of other Rovers fans about it. I feel like he's a great servant for the club, but I think it's maybe the right time because of where we're at as a club and moving forward, particularly with the sort of formation that we're using at the moment and under Barry Robson. Don't think anyone doubts the guy's work ethic or commitment and what he does. Just keen to see how it pans out. But I just feel like over the last couple of seasons, he never really got to the same heights that he did in that season with the Auchinleck game but that's such a high standard to set because he really kept us away from relegation that year and got us to where we are. In fact, we probably ended up getting a profit or making less of a loss, should we say, because of Aidan Connolly dragging us through the Scottish Cup to that point. Interesting one to keep an eye on, though. Fully agree. And I don't blame anyone if they do come back and he does well, that people are asking questions about it. But we'll see how it goes. And Graeme, for you?
I think the boys have covered it. I think you look at who people have signed and would they fit into our team or would they play in our team. I think Declan Gallagher, I think he would have been cracking. For us, I think the two main centre halves we have plus him, you would put your mortgage on having a good season with those three at the back. Wee bit like Iain, I was actually thinking Aidan Connolly would be a great signing for them because he'd love playing at Hampden. However, because Hampden's such a massive park that for a winger that is just a fantastic place to play football. Maybe did somebody tell Aidan that they have no playing there? I don't know. Maybe he might have changed his options. I think Gallagher's the best signing so far. The Jamie Gullen one at St Johnstone, he came in, he wouldn't have been on a king's ransom for us for that 6-month period. Worked out fine for us, it's worked out fine for him. He's gone somewhere else, he's probably got more money, he's probably got a longer term contract. Fair play, mate, knock yourself out.
Yeah, I'm keen to see how Hammer does. He's St Johnstone signings. Their fans are really pressing home the sort of the viewpoint of, look, we've signed 3 championship players. Maybe a lot of championship teams are sort of saying, "Oh, it's just 3 smack bang championship average players. Like St Johnstone aren't going to be doing anything." But that's because they feel confident in the squad that they've already got under their books. So yeah, there was a few players. I think like Victor Griffiths, for instance, is sort of like the talk was that he'd be staying. A few of their centre backs as well. So it's really just about adding depth for them. Jamie Gullen, it was disappointing to see him go. Ideally, if we kept him, because I think he was playing his best football under Barry Robson, and I think he is on an upward trajectory. But how that continues on. With St Johnstone, it's a new club. He's got a new fan base it needs to win over, and there'll be traits that they might not be familiar with that can be frustrating. But yeah, he's got all the attributes to kick on, and I think he's learned a lot from his time in Ireland. Just for you, Alan, what did you make of that move?
From our point of view, yeah, he had a decent second half of the season last season. I think we've already got a decent amount of strikers who don't really score goals, and if Jamie Gullen moving on allows us to bring in someone who can add goals, I'm not that disappointed by it. And I think I have no doubt. We were probably only offering him a 1-year deal. St Johnstone have given him 2. Fair play to him. I'm not. It's one of those. There's no bad blood there. He's going to be a decent signing for St Johnstone. If they're wanting to win the league, I don't think he's going to be a regular starter for them, but he's a very good guy to have coming off the bench. Who knows? Maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he'll go and start every game for them and score 20 goals. But it's not one that I was devastated about, but I wouldn't have been unhappy if he'd stayed either, I suppose is the way to put it.
Blair.
Yes, mate.
You're a man,
Yes.
and you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
Okay, and speaking of devastated, Graeme, talk us through your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions. Liam Dick confirming that he will not be returning to Starks Park in a Rovers shirt next season.
It's been a tough couple of weeks, Robbie. It's been a tough couple of weeks. No, I think it's the best thing for him. Obviously, my son and I sponsored them, sponsored the away trip, so I've been talking about him. It's actually quite nice if the rumours come true that the stalker becomes the stalked, in a certain mad twist. But speaking of him, and he was like, he wasn't playing football towards the end of the season. The team was flying. How do you fit somebody in? The team's flying and playing well defensively. As he kept saying, he's 29. Wanted to play football, and I can totally get that. I think even having coached an under 12, under 13 football team, and you get everybody moaning when they didn't get the game time they think they're going to get, it must be terrible when that's your job. So fair play. I think it's absolutely wild, by the way, that somebody puts their "see you later" post on social media, and there's a photo of you and your laddie with him. It was absolutely bizarre. That was mental. But no, fair play to him. I think over the years he's proved himself to be a worthy player for the Rovers. I think, as we'd said before, he got in the top 100 appearances. So it's amazing how you can get an alleged move to United by scoring against Kilmarnock twice. Football's an easy thing, eh? It's absolutely easy. Just scoring against Kilmarnock, United are like, come on in, big man.
I think if he does end up at United, I think it's a decent signing by them as well. Because, at times they've really struggled to fill the left-back position. They've been putting all sorts of players in there, and he's a perfectly good Championship left back / left centre back. He'll do a fine job for them.
And less injury prone than Frankie Musonda.
Yeah, who's
cheaper as well.
Yeah, been released. How's he going to get called up for Zambia now? Pretty well still.
Mad Zambian guy
I don't think
that'll
be a problem.
Yeah.
Mad Zambian fan. Who's he going to support now in Scottish football?
I liked Musonda, but again, it was just like, it was the same for us as it was for Ayr. Like, just too many injuries. And just disappearing on international duty, and then he comes back injured, and you're thinking, like, just
come on, mate.
Can't even have that. Aye. I get that it's very proud, but yes, it's not the best for when you're trying to build a team that's going for the playoffs or title potentially. Iain, any thoughts about Liam Dick? I'm guessing it's just echoing what's been said already.
Yeah, I was disappointed, man. Like, I really like Liam Dick. I know there's folk in the support who haven't got any time for him, but I'm definitely not one of those. A huge amount of time for Liam Dick. Fit all the time, dependable. You count on one hand the amount of times he'd let you down in the time he was here. And a thoroughly good egg. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, disappointed to see him go, but I fully understand the reasoning for it. As he said to Graeme, 29 years old, was not getting the team at the end of the season. Must have been frustrating knowing that your contract's running down. And if he's going to go somewhere and get that game time in the kind of tail end of his career, I mean, he's not quite there yet. Do you know what I mean? This man's in his 20s, but he's wanting to go and play football, and there's probably been no assurances made on our end that he was going to get that. And on top of probably only getting a 1-year deal, you're looking at kind of financial security. It makes sense to move on and kind of kill two birds with one stone, get the game time and get the contract sealed up. So I wish him all the best. He's been a fantastic servant for the club, and I hope he enjoys and does well at wherever he ends up.
Yeah, I can only echo that. I mean, I think at that point, at 29, you've really got to be like, you're into, you're not going to have that much time left playing football. It's certainly like the lion's share of your career's behind you. And just to be able to get the game time. And to be honest, at 29, you're probably thinking you're in your peak of your career. That's when you're at your strongest. You've learned, you've got the experience. You want to get out and you want to play, and nobody's wanting to really be sitting about on the bench. That's about. In terms of the business that Rovers have done, so we did see a departure. So Cup hero Colin Cameron, and league hero as well, for that matter. Colin Cameron's departed as assistant manager. What did you make of that, Alan? Bit of a shock move?
I think when Robson came in, there was always that kind of feeling, would he want to bring his own backroom team in with him? Mickey was under contract, obviously. He knew the players, so it made sense to keep him around then. If Robson's wanting to put his own stamp on it, the team, then it makes sense that he maybe brings someone else in. Again, it's a shame to see him go. I mean, people can throw the word legend about a bit too casually at times. Mickey Cameron is absolutely a Raith Rovers legend, especially to slightly older fans like myself who actually remember him from his playing days. Fantastic footballer for us. Was always going to go on to bigger and better things, and he did. Played Premier League football, but just a good Rovers man. And sad to see him leave the club. I hope the nonsense rumours that I've read on Pie and Bovril about how it happened aren't true. But, we've got to move on and kind of wait and see whether Andy Kirk proves to be a good replacement or not.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned him being his replacement. Iain, do you think it was Andy Kirk coming in, obviously? Do you think it's the right time for Barry Robson to be able to make his mark with his backroom staff, just being able to imprint what he's got in mind for things?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Robson obviously came in mid-season last season. There was a focus from the club on the continuity and kind of keeping things broadly the same as they were, and trying to just get us to the end of the season. So I think it's probably a natural conclusion and a natural time to make that change and let Robson get his own man in. And if he thinks Andy Kirk is the man to do that, then we've got to get behind that. One thing I would say is Colin Cameron was an excellent finisher and did a lot of work with Finlay Pollock towards the end of last season. And Andy Kirk had one of the worst misses I've ever seen at Starch Park. So let's hope it gets a bit better than that, Andy.
One of the worst misses I've seen at East End Park as well, which is, it's again, it's always impossible to really measure as a fan what the impact these sorts of decisions have. And I think I was pointing that out earlier on. It's like you look back at last season and we were getting into these issues with Kevin Dabrowski where there was sort of people were like, what's Robbie Thompson doing? And it was like, well, you're never going to fucking know what Robbie Thompson does. You're not in training with him. It doesn't matter. Like, he's obviously qualified. He does what he does. He's good at his job. He's obviously been about the block. So, yeah, I never understand sort of that argument of things. I think that it's one of these things where it's always impossible to really gauge unless it's the players. Yeah, with St Johnstone, again, a lot of their fans, they're obviously being quite dismissive, but yeah, as Graeme rightfully was saying in our sort of group chat earlier on, shock decision that people leaving a club has resulted in detractors from said club, is that sort of point. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. And obviously,
maybe Mickey's actually been tapped up by some Hollywood agents as well after that, contract extension Christmas video last year.
Well, Ian Murray's still available as well for them if they want them both. So, and then Rovers made their first move of the summer window. Boston United's J Rowe has decided to come up. Graeme, what did you make of the move? I mean, obviously, J Rowe's not someone that we're familiar with. I think the majority of people then immediately went onto Google to search his name. And looks statistically certainly a positive move. What did you make of the signing?
I think from what we've heard from the interviews, it looks as though we've been chasing him for a while. Which is kind of one of the positives, I think, compared to last season where we didn't know what league we were going to be in. I think Robson's come in and gone, I need a right wing back. And they've spent that time since Robson's come in trying to find the right guy. Hopefully he is. He didn't look 5'11" in the videos, but then again, that kind of level in England is like land of the giants. We'll just have to see, because I've never seen a new player's showreel that's been rubbish, to be fair. They've all been amazing. Yeah.
I mean, Willie Akio.
Penalty was probably the worst one I've ever seen. Everybody looks good in the showreel, so we'll soon find out. Hopefully, I think the last goal scoring right back we had was Jock McStay, so if he's anything like Jock McStay, he'll do for me.
Well, we'd be on it a winner if we can replicate that. Iain, what were your thoughts on the deal? Just, again, 2-year deal shows probably a bit of confidence on the Rovers' part, but for all the statistics side, I think it's maybe the main question, sort of adapting to life in Scotland for a young player coming up from England.
Yeah, there's always an element of that, isn't there? We had it with Aidan Marsh last season, and by all kind of reports, he thoroughly enjoyed his time in Kirkcaldy, which I was very happy to hear, given that he's kind of had limited game time and stuff. But anyway, last season's news. Jay is an interesting one. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'd heard of him and I was on the edge of my seat waiting for the news to come through that we were going to sign him. But from what I've seen, looks pretty exciting. Like an attacking wing back who gets forward and scores goals. Headers. I mean, that sounds good. All of that sounds good. Excited to see him. Excited to have a proper right back, which has been obviously a problem area in the squad for the last 18 months. So yeah, I'm excited to see him get going. A very Barry Robson type player. Do you know what I mean? Like real engine on him. What is he? 22? Is he 22 years old?
24, yes.
24.
Because we've not had to pay any compensation, despite how the Boston fans were very, very keen to say. There was one guy on Twitter, he was like, I don't understand how it's different to the boy that signed for St Mirren. And it's like, well, the guy that signed for St Mirren had a year and a half left on his contract, whereas J Rowe had 1 month left on his contract.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, I'm excited by it. And I really hope he does well when he's here. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
I think that's the thing, though. We've had a lot of players have came up over the last few years from England. Again, we mentioned Frankie Masonda earlier on. You look at Aidan Marsh last season. Generally speaking, positive sort of things to say about their time. So hopefully that can continue. I'm sure the Rovers
fans.
Guy
who played every game last season. 50 odd games. The fans of the team he's leaving wanted him to stay and questioned the move in terms of, is he actually moving up a level or is he moving sideways? The last set of fans to do that were probably the Tampa Bay fans when we signed Jordan Doherty. That move proved to be good, so hopefully that's a wee positive sign.
Yeah, well, again, obviously time will tell with that. We'll still just keep waiting to see what extra business is done. Again, the deal for Josh Ray, we're still hopeful that that'll come over the line. A lot of business you would imagine still to be done. But that'll bring us to a close for this evening. So thank you for taking the time to listen. Guys, you got any final thoughts for the evening?
Just delighted to be back. I'm looking forward to getting back into the football. I don't know if anybody had saw the video of me and my wee man on Twitter that the Rovers very kindly asked us in to do and film. I've got the wee man the season ticket, so it's a big season. As a dad, taking your wee boy to his first full season with a season ticket, so let's make it a good one, Rovers, please.
Yeah, I mean, he's already seen us score 5 goals at Hampden, so he's pretty blessed in that respect. So, yeah.
Odd and healthy here, son.
Yeah, my missus is already. She's like, when I mentioned, oh yeah, by the way, our first pre-season friendly's on the 28th of June, and I've already said I'm going to do the announcing at it, so we're going to that. She's like, the season's back already. Off. yes, it is. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be absolutely delighted with that prospect. I was already getting quizzed about sort of holidays and sort of, oh, we're going away on the 4th of July. Is that going to impact like you in the football? And I was like, nah, that's like the first pre-season game.
As long as you're back on the 11th for Elgin away on the 12th. That's
well, spot on. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to listen. We will be back, no doubt, very soon, hopefully with some positive transfer news. But yeah, thanks for taking the time to listen, and bye for now.